drvoicetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. And you all know that we tend to have Powernomics Thursdays, and I think today's Thursday. And we get a chance to speak with, in my view, a man who is the greatest economic thinker since Marcus Garvey, Dr. Claud Anderson. Dr. Anderson is the author of the books Powernomics, Black Labor, White Wealth, Dirty Little Secrets, and the Black History Reader. And so first of all, I'd like to welcome everybody to the platform and also ask my friend Dr. Anderson, how you doing today, sir?
Oh, I can't complain. I'm trying the best to keep on going and stay ahead, following your footsteps.
Well, don't follow my footsteps. That'll lead you nowhere. Well, well, I'll tell you what, Dr. Anderson, this week, and I want to ask everybody if they were following it. I talked to my wife about it this morning on the platform, but I wanted to hear from somebody who has a very educated opinion on this. Everybody give me a yes or no in the chat if you heard that Joe Biden and the Biden administration are seeking to cut HBCU funding from $45 billion down to $2 billion. 95% cut as part of this $3.5 trillion infrastructure package. They are allegedly, this is what has been reported in numerous media outlets from Black Enterprise to Newsweek, etc., that they are chopping down HBCU funding in a way that was simply shocking, in a way that was never done during the Trump administration. Not to say that Trump was a better president, but in this particular area, this never happened. And so I wanted to get Dr. Anderson's take on this. Dr. Anderson, based on what I've just said to you, and I can read more details to you if you like, what are your initial thoughts on hearing this?
Well, my initial response would be that I'm reaching a point now, Dr. Watkins, that I'm beginning to start blaming Blacks for some of our predicaments because what I consider to be inappropriate behavior patterns. And as you know from doing a critical analysis of the book Powernomics, one of the major components in that book was a whole big section called inappropriate behavior pattern. Black people have been committing inappropriate behavior so long and refuse to change these inappropriate behavior patterns that all you can do now is just feel sorry for them. And see, the easiest thing for me to do is jump up and start criticizing the the Biden administration, which I don't even care about, because I think he's tricked Blacks. But I told Black folk years in advance to stay away from the Democratic Party and to stay away from the Republican Party. Neither one has their good intentions for Black folk. They have no interest in Black folk because that would be a form of suicide. White folk right now would do anything they can to maintain the status quo, which means the status quo is those things in that constitutional construct that says all this for whites, nothing for Black folk. We operate on a trickle-down principle, which means everything will go to whites. If there's anything left over that trickles down, it'll go to Black folk. But hopefully we hope that nothing will never trickle down. Now, in terms of HBCUs, I told Blacks way back when I was over education for the state of Florida. And I told them at that time that the worst thing that you can do is go for all this social integration crap that was put out by the civil rights organization in the 1960s. If you're that dumb, you're going to pay a heavy penalty. And my mom used to tell me a fool head would get you a soft butt, or a hard head would get you a soft butt. And so right now, I think personally that it's good. Let them reduce it. You know why? Maybe that can be a trigger that would finally excite Black folk to get off their dead butts and get up and start pushing back. Everything is going wrong for them right now in society. You can't get very much lower than where they are presently. And yet, every time I look around, Black folk try to look through muddy water and see dry land. They keep trying to put whipped cream on boo-boo instead of saying something is wrong. You put the Biden administration in office. It was your votes that every Black leader in this country, from the civil rights organization to the Black public officials, pushed hard for that, to make sure every Black got out there and voted for the Democratic Party. And so far, for 9 or 10 months, the Democratic Party and the Biden administration has simply ignored you, disrespected you, urinated in your ear, and keep telling you it's warm rain. And you keep trying to figure out somehow, well, maybe I can get used to that warm rain. It won't be that bad if I can stand it long enough. And I said, no. And let me go back one more point. The one host asked me one day, he said, Dr. Anderson, what does it take? You always talk about inappropriate behavior pattern of our people. What does it take for our people to change? I said, it takes more pain. Black folk have not had enough pain inflicted on them yet. That's why they won't change. He said, well, we went through 365 years of slavery, castration, lynchings, beatings, whippings, subordination. And then we went through the black codes. We went through Jim Crow segregation. Then we went through another 60 years of benign neglect. And now we've been another 60 years of just simply being ignored. What does it take? I say, it's just like right now. If a person got a foot that has an infection, and as long as he can continue to walk on that foot and get by without going to a doctor, 9 times out of 10, he'll keep putting down the need to go to the doctor and finding excuses for not going. And I said, if the pain gets bad enough, he will go. If the pain can get bad enough on black folk, it'll bring about a change. The pain still is not bad enough on black folk. Black folk in America still needs more pain before they wake up to smell the damn coffee and quit doing things that are appropriate for the white society. Cease and desist in seeing things through the eyes of white society, and always asking whites for their approval before you do something in the best interest of your own people. Now, so why should I ask black folk go out there again and take another butt whipping? That's what you did during the civil rights movement. Go out there and let them hit you in the head with a brick and a baseball bat. And after they hit you, you get out and march again, put on your marching shoes and say, we shall overcome someday. And like Red Fox said, if you run out there and try to hit him in the head, he said, I'm gonna cut you. And so he said, you can rest assured of that. I mean, back when we were talking in those days, they would ask Red Fox, why don't we go out and march with Red Fox? And homie, don't play that. So he around here trying to hit me in the head with a brick and shoe. He's, I'm gonna cut your ass. That's what he said. And so, so right now, because we didn't have that many guns back in those days, and but I'm just saying, I was with an investigator for the Safe Street Crime and organization at that time for the federal government. But I'm just telling you, blacks have not suffered enough pain. I said they're not going to change until you keep putting pain on them. And the Biden administration is laying it on them. That's why they haven't done absolutely anything that you can count and measure tangibly for black folk right now since they've been in office. And we've been calling them on a high-speed bullet train system, which is the first thing of this nature in 465 years for black folk. And the Biden administration with the Harris administration won't even call them back. And talking about putting in $81 billion for the old Amtrak good old boys. And blacks have never gotten any money out of those programs for infrastructural improvement. They don't even let black folks come into the building when they're going to decide that kind of. And these black folks are silly enough to keep running, kissing people, trying to get along with them. That's why one white guy who was one of the biggest racists during slavery, he was a doctor, and people and the whites were upset with him, saying, what are we going to do now with these blacks if they started acting up? He says that's the least of your worry. He said that's the least of your worry. He said black folk want to be one thing. They want to be at our elbow, to be at our hand, so that for our handmaidens to do anything we need to have done. And they were always ready to carry the water for us anytime we need the water carried. So don't worry about them. They're never going to do anything. And that was way back during slavery. Here we are 465 years under slavery and sinful segregation. And not one time, tell me one black person that you know besides Maxine Waters, who's a good friend, that stood up right now and raised Cain about how they're treating Haitians and how they treat. Now they only got one plane going back to going back to Haiti now, hauling the last of the blacks back to Haiti. They only do that with black folk. Where are these black folks got elected to office? I would put all those clowns on a damn boat and ship them to Russia someplace, but out of Mongolia. Instead of give me some money to run so I can run for office. No, you run for the damn border. Run for the border and run for Mexico or run all the way to out of Mongolia someplace. And they do not deserve any support and respect. They're incompetent, criminally incompetent towards their own people. That's why they never raise Cain about anything. All they want to do is get along. And I told you before about in Korea, how they would hide behind the trees and in the bushes, laying in the ditches on their own gun. And they said, why don't you get up and shoot back when the enemy shows up in the morning, every morning at 7:30, 8 o'clock, blowing whistles and blowing horns, so they're going to kill us, and shooting bullets coming past us in rockets. Why don't you get up and shoot back? They would say, well, Dr. Anderson, if we were to start shooting back, that might make them mad. I said, you need your ass whipped for being that damn stupid.
Well,
Okay, that's my point of view.
well, everybody, I'm speaking with Dr. Claud Anderson, and we're talking about HBCU funding and what's going on with the Biden administration cutting HBCU funding. In case you didn't know, they're cutting it from 45 billion to, or they're trying to cut it from 45 billion to 2 billion. And a lot of people are up in arms. But the bigger question is, what do you do about it? And so I'd like for you guys, if you could take 1 second, please. We're trying to build Black-owned media. Because this is one of the few places where you get to hear from people like Dr. Claud Anderson on a regular basis, things like that. So we really need your support. So if you could take 1 second, hit the thumbs up button, take just thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Please hit the subscribe button and all that stuff so we can keep growing the platforms and reaching as many of our people as possible. So Dr. Anderson, let me
one other point. Let me close my little point out on that. And one part of why I express myself in such a aggressive form, and maybe a little brutally aggressive just a few seconds ago, is because, see, back when I was over education for the state of Florida, and I was telling Black colleges that I knew, I had meetings calling most of the education advisors and vice presidents in the universities all throughout the South to meet with me, because I was trying to tell them, you got to change your mode of operation, and started doing something now through these institutions strictly and solely for Black folk. That's what you came into existence for. Now, why would you want to socially integrate when you came? Because you had a specific responsibility to do what? To reverse how Black folk had been treated educationally for 365 years, where they had laws saying it is against the law to publicly educate or privately educate a Black person. And if anybody get caught teaching a Black person how to read and write, will be charged a $100 fine and 39 lashes on his backside, for being caught teaching Black folk to be competitive with whites. And they only had one university, I told you at that time, was Howard University, was the only one that didn't come under that mandate and that public policy. Now here they come now in 1995 when Bush came into office, because all of them started trying to socially integrate. I said, don't try to socially integrate. Or what the social integration means is that whites want every Black university to be miniature white universities. Why do you want to convert a Black university to a miniature white university by doing the teaching and using the same procedures and techniques and materials, information, and same as white folks are doing? And I said, that's why right now on every Black college campus, about 65 to 67% of all the damn instructors not even Black. They're not even Black. And I said, what the hell? What are you getting upset about them cutting the money? Hell, they should cut it. Maybe get rid of half of those damn people that are not even Blacks at a Black institution, and to get rid of those who are incompetent and shouldn't even be there in the first place because they're not qualified to be in it. And secondly, and more importantly, here comes Bush up there made and approved this for against Black institutions, saying this, that anytime, now watch this now, listen carefully now, anytime a major white institution under integration, anytime a white institution gets at least a 21% Hispanic enrollment, that school is now eligible to be qualified as a minority equal to Black universities, and go into that historical Black college pot fund and have an equal chance to pull any money out that's set up there for Black folk in the first place. So if you talk about 2 billion, why would you let's put 2 billion there and here comes a white institution and take that away from you? White folks think you are stupid for doing it. And so do all the other groups. And now you got Harvard University, all these elite institutions now demanding that they remove any racial quotas there to help Black folk, to give Black folk kids any preferential treatment. These are Asians coming in saying that, and saying now that we want all references to race removed from the white institutions so they can't get any scholarships and any money. But any white who wants to go to a Black institution can go to any white institution and be classified as a minority and go in and clean the whole damn count out. Because the white male is a minority. He's a minority. White women are a minority in those white Black institutions. They're totally politically, educationally incompetent. And I always want somebody to go out and march and sing, "We shall overcome." You can't be that. You can't think past that a quarter of an inch. Start thinking deep and start understanding the nature of the problems, then you can resolve them. Quit messing around with the damn symptoms and look at the causes of these problems. And so I don't have any, and same thing with urban, what's that thing called?
Urban League?
Not the Urban League. No, we had a thing, Institute for Blacks for money from they call where black children can get money out of the, what was that thing called? But anyway, I can't think of it right now. But anyway, they had up a special fund also for blacks that was over by Colin Powell, was put over it for a while to try to run that. And guess what? They did the same thing. They can't think of, see, again, I have a lot of problems nowadays since I had my health problems. My mind is not as quick as it used to be in recording data, remembering data. And
take your time.
huh?
I said that's okay. Take your time, or we can just move on. It's okay.
Yeah. And what they said then was that he says that the Annenberg's group says that we're going to put so many millions of dollars into black schools if they were to open the schools up so that white kids can go there and also be eligible to get the money. Historical black, what's it called? Historical black.
HBCU.
No, not historical black colleges. Can't think of what it's called now. But anyway, so they opened up so now the white kids can go to Howard in a black school and have a preference over blacks because they're not blacks. They're classified as a minority and get the ones out. And the 21% Hispanic population, any Hispanic can go to a black school and be equal to a black folk getting the money out. But you would never ever see that happen with the Indians. Indians got colleges, they get college funds every year. The Indians were required to go to school. Nobody beat Indians about trying to go to school and deny them a right to get an education during slavery. Indians were forced to go to Indian schools and get an education. At the same time, they had laws just saying just the opposite for black kids, saying you better not get caught. You're trying to learn and can speak and can read and write. That was the quickest way to get lynched. Is if white folk find out you can read and write and can see something and read a newspaper. And now they open up their funds strictly for everybody. But Indians always said nobody's going to get any money out of our colleges unless you're an Indian. You're not going to the Indian college and get funds. And everybody says that except black folk. So I said the political incompetence, the outright rank versionous, raw, pure stupidity. No, I tell white folk, go ahead and change it. Don't put that much money into the HBCUs. Maybe put more pain on blacks. Maybe they'll start doing things right and get some backbone. Start getting some common sense, some intestinal fortitude. Because right now, Maxine Waters probably got more intestinal fortitude than all the black men put together in the Congressional Black Caucus. They got more balls than all the black men put together. She has by herself.
Well, everybody, if you haven't, if you just got here, I'm speaking with Dr. Claud Anderson. Dr. Anderson's website is powernomics.com. He's the author of the books Powernomics, Black Labor, White Wealth, The Black History Reader, and Dirty Little Secrets. And just last night, we did our book club, which we have every Wednesday, where we're reading Black Labor, White Wealth. We're on page 96 right now. And books like this are that's your real Black history. And I encourage you to have your children read these books or go to powernomics.com and buy copies for your loved ones for Christmas and the holidays, things like that. And also Dr. Anderson is participating with us at the All Black National Convention, which is going to be October 29th through November 1st in Orlando. And we've gathered over 40 highly qualified Black experts who have made the Black community their number one priority, not their side job, and B, have proven solutions that will benefit the community. So if you want to come there to learn, to fellowship, to have fun, we're going to have a lot of fun, a backyard barbecue, speed dating. We're doing an awards show. We're doing all kinds of fun stuff in the middle of it all. We even have a children's curriculum. Join us. Go to allblacknationalconvention.com. We encourage you to bring your family. College students get in free if you bring a valid student ID. All college students are admitted for free for the whole convention. But we also encourage you to bring your family, bring your church group, bring your investment club, bring your neighbors. It's a great event. So the URL is right there on the screen. So Dr. Anderson, let me ask you a question. I want to show you something real quick. I'm going to show you something, and then I'm just going to give you space to just answer in any way you see fit. One of the fundamental issues that to me is really being made apparent, that's really all downright embarrassing to me when I see HBCUs. I see more Black people constantly whining and crying because what Biden or some white guy won't do, right? And I think that is very disgraceful for us as a people, because it means that if we buy into this, that means that to me that's a type of white supremacy that says that a white man can be a man, the Black man must be less of a man. If he's a man, I'm a little boy. I'm not gonna be no little boy. I'm like Red Fox. You mess with me, I'm gonna cut you, right? So here's my thing. I was thinking about the bigger picture behind all this. The question I have, and I'm gonna show you some data, and I want you to kind of think about this a little bit, is doesn't it seem to you that the HBCUs are always broke? They always, as a collective, they always on the fence. They always struggling. Like they like a broke baby daddy looking for a welfare check. Always sitting on the sidelines saying, we can't survive unless you give us whatever you're going to give us. Now, everybody gets government money. We know this. We know what racism does and all that. But it seems to me that maybe that means that the business model of HBCUs is the wrong one. So let me show you some data that'll kind of help make my point. And Dr. Anderson, I'm going to pass the ball back to you and let you do your thing. So this is on afro.com. And on afro.com, they placed a list of the top 10 university endowments of HBCUs. Here you can see that the top 10 endowments is a little over $2 billion, while the endowment for Harvard is $40.9 billion. So Harvard has an endowment. Harvard, one white university by itself. I want y'all to really pay attention to this now. One white university by itself has an endowment that is 20 times greater than every HBCU in America combined. Is that not just an unbelievable glaring statistic? I kind of want us to meditate on. I don't want us to gloss over that, right? They're crapping on you economically, right? And so if you look at that top 10 list, you got Howard at the top with 712 million, Spelman with 377 million, Hampton at 280 million, Morehouse at 157 million, Meharry Medical College 156 million, Florida A&M's at 95 million. Next is North Carolina A&T at 74 million. University of the Virgin Islands 66.9 million, Tennessee State 63, Virginia State 56. Now let me read to you what the white people have. Let's just do some comparison. We up here talking about equality all the time. Well, you ain't got nothing nowhere near close to equality, because this ain't no equality. When they got one school that literally has an endowment 20 times greater than all your schools put together, that ain't no equality. Stop playing. Stop thinking that you've achieved equality. You haven't. You're nowhere near it. Let's look at what white folks got. At the top of the list, we got Harvard at $41.9 billion. Yale, $31 billion. Stanford, $28.9 billion. Princeton, $25.9 billion. MIT, $18 billion. University of Pennsylvania, $14.8 billion. Texas A&M, $12.7 billion. Notre Dame, $12.3 billion. University of Michigan, $12.3 billion. Columbia, $11.2 billion. So here's the point. I'm gonna make this point. Then I'm gonna let Dr. Anderson share his thoughts on this. You've got probably about 50 white universities that have an endowment that is bigger than the endowment of every HBCU in America combined. So we know that HBCUs have done a wonderful job of educating a lot of Black doctors, Black lawyers, Black business professionals, etc. No question about it. But the HBCU, to me, is not the place where you're going to find anything that even resembles real Black economic power, because it seems to me that they always stay broke, begging, and borrowing. Dr. Anderson, what say you?
I would say you're absolutely right. And that was a part of what I was saying a few minutes ago to you about the historical Black colleges. and universities. And I just remembered the other group I was trying to think about. It was called the United Negro College Fund. You remember that one? United Negro College Fund that takes up these donations and raise and charitable events to raise enough money to send Black folks to school. And guess what? They went. And after Annisberg says, I want you to socially integrate the United Negro College Fund. It's not fair for you to be talking about something specifically and solely for Black folk. And guess what the United Negro College Fund said? You sure is right. You sure is right. We got to open the door for everybody. And when I talked to all the racists years ago in the South, and I've been taking them in trade missions into different countries, I don't care what the country was, into the Caribbean, to Cuba, to Bermuda, Barbados, Virgin Islands, any place I took them. And Venezuela or Colombia, to France, England, Germany. I went to all those places taking trade missions on 99 and point something % of everything we took. As a matter of fact, I never had one Black go with me in terms of business. All of them were always whites because I couldn't get Blacks to go into those countries. And even when the government called me from the president, when being in the president's office at that time in his cabinet, and they wanted me to, we couldn't even sell products, export things into Venezuela, into Caracas. And of course, we had a group down there called the La Roscas. These were the Jewish mafia. And they would not let you come into their ports and bring anything in a ship. And so I had to go down there on it and to represent the country. And first thing the mafia said is that, come on with us. You meet us tonight up in the hills, up in the mountains. And they told the hotel with a chauffeur to bring me back up there. And guess what? I met the whole evening with the mafia in Venezuela, in Caracas, when in those days you could not go more than 1 block away from the hotel because terrorism was just that bad. Or they're picking you up. And see, my passport was a red passport, which I still kept so many for that you could not go in a place without being picked up, held as a hostage, and demanding our federal government buy you back from the terrorists, just like over in Colombia, the same thing. And they said basically that we don't like letting these people come in our country. And I said, I'm bringing in some of these people. I'm gonna bring in products for Black folk. And when I got through having my conversation with the Roscas, you know what they said? They said, Dr. Anderson, meet with us tomorrow morning about 8 o'clock down at the port. When I got down there, they walked around like this all day long, telling all the linemen and everybody on the docks, the dock crews, it is fine to deal with Anderson and the Gulf and South Atlantic seafood industry. And because I set up a seafood thing called a Hilton Head Seafood Cooperative for Blacks to be able to fish and run fishing business. I built John Island's crabbing facility for them. I put Blacks into the shrimp industry down in Louisiana. I started what's called a Midwest seafood distribution program for Black folk so they can sell fish out west where they couldn't get fish on a regular basis. And I had to call it underutilized species. I told the fishermen, you save all those fish that you catch. It's illegal for you to catch. Instead of throwing them back in the water, put them into a bag and freeze them, bring them back in. I'll take all those overseas into Africa and other countries. And I said, you got to start functioning and broadening your perspectives so that everybody be included. But everybody went for the social integration. That's what happened to the United Negro College Fund. And so now their monies are being depleted. Well, I got Jewish kids running around bragging about they get more money from a Black university or the United Negro College Fund than Blacks can get out of it. And as long as you got a Black integration mentality, you're not going to go any place. Because what they don't understand is they think that whenever they start talking about minorities, poor folk, people of color, diversity, that somehow that shows a very humanistic feeling and compassion and empathy and sympathy for whites and other groups. And those groups, when I talk to them, they don't think that you're human, that you're being humanistic about anything. They think you're stupid. They tell me that. They said, we think Black folk are stupid because they simply, when the things they should be trying to look out for by focusing strictly on their own race, their own people, trying to elevate them and make sure they get 100% of what's on the table. They tell their Black kids to go back into the back rooms. There's a cake there. If you're white, there's a cake on the table. You take the whole cake. If it's black and there's a cake on the table, you go back there and cut your little piece off. Say, what this piece belongs to us. The rest belongs to whites and to Asians and Arabs. But they never take the whole cake and try to help their own people. And so right now, I've reached a point after 50 years of running around the world trying to help black folk economically. I got meaner and tougher now. I said, no, I'm not going to back up off of black folks. It's inappropriate behavior. If you're going to mess around with social integration and the civil rights laws that have been corrupted to take care of everybody, then I don't want to be involved with you. And that's why right now they're sending those Haitians back to back to Haiti, because nobody makes an issue. Where is the black leadership? Why aren't they raising a cane? You know why they're not? Because that's what happened to those Haitians is exactly what happened to black folk in this country. And sooner or later, we're going to have to talk about that. And I'll tell you what happened, where they started out and where they ended up. They ended up down there, for instance, I'll jump to the end because I won't talk about it today. In Del Rio, Texas, guess what? That's where the first blacks that came in this country as Seminole Indians. That was the only, and there was no such thing as Seminole Indians back in the old days. The word was Cimarron, and that was only for blacks, for runaway slaves at Inappropriate and with Appalachia and Creek Indians. And they ran those Seminole Indians out of Florida, out west, then ran them out of the Oklahoma Territory all the way down to Del Rio. So that's where the black Indians wound up in Del Rio, Texas, way back in the 1800s, because all the Indian tribes were against them, and they couldn't even stay in Oklahoma. General Jackson moved them to Oklahoma, what they call the Trail of Tears. 39, almost 40% were blacks, black Indians and black freemen. But they took them to Oklahoma. But everybody out there was trying to re-enslave them because Indians were slave holders. Nobody tells you that. And what are they doing right now? Giving Indians every damn thing, giving the offsprings, the children and grandchildren of Indians, giving them all kind of benefits under the Indian Bureau right now in Washington, D.C. They get $28,000 for every so-called Indian every year, like a Social Security. And then down in Florida, they got $135,000 for every Indian. They got free. That's every income coming to the rock cafes and again from the gambling casinos. And the Indians got gambling casinos in almost every damn black neighborhood, and blacks are dumping their money. They dump their money in the casino and the Indians, and Indians still mistreating them. Now, to get to your point, to answer your question, is that right now, whites and all these other groups in America, Indians, every culture group, every religious group, every gender group, every ethnic group, they all live off of two incomes. They live off of two incomes. They live off of 100% of their money because they don't let their money go into the black community. They live off of 100% of their money and 98% of all black money. So the reason right now you got these people got all this money in the colleges, they can't give it to black folk. You know why? They don't have any money to give to black colleges. Because you see, they took that money every day just to live over to the white malls and to the white communities and to the Asian stores and Asian and Chinese restaurants and Italian pizza places. You give your money away every day to people that are not your skin color. And then you want to know why your people can't do a damn thing for you. You don't have any money. You only keep 2% of your money in your own neighborhood, in your own businesses. You don't have enough businesses to be even able to exist. It is a miracle that black folk have lived this long. It is. I mean, that just defies mathematical probability that you can live in a country for 465 years and still be existing at the bottom, where the average white person still has 3,500 times what you have. 3,500 times. As a matter of fact, if white folk quit gaining wealth at this point, it'll take black folk another 239 years to catch up with white folk where they are today. If white folk didn't gain any more money, just for black folk to catch up with where white folk are today, it'll take black people 239 years. And so you want to know why they're not doing anything in historic black colleges? They ain't got a damn thing. And the black people running these black historical colleges, they ain't got enough damn sense to step up to the whites and say, no, we are a special school. We don't want any equality. If you're down at the bottom, the last thing you need is equality. Who in the world wants equality? I don't want any equality for black folk. I want black folk to be exceptional. They should be getting exceptional benefits. That's what here's why. And I'm gonna get off, and I've given you a lecture already. Because right now, either the Dred Scott decision of 1857 is still in force. And that says a black person has no rights and no privileges or anything that a white person is bound to respect. It says you are nothing, you're equal to a field animal, you're not a citizen, and you're not entitled to own property or have any authority or anything else. And that Dred Scott decision, that was 1857. Now, when it came out with the new constitution for black folk, now, and they said you got it, and that was the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. It says that nobody can be made equal to you. That nobody can use the 13th Amendment. They can't use the 14th Amendment. They can't use the 15th Amendment. So how is Biden getting by and Obama get by? They obviously they are not following the laws. Those I'm just gave you three of them. Then I'm not even talking about the civil rights laws yet. How can they say we want all y'all to be equal when those laws says no, they're not. They're above you. You are above the Asians and Hispanics and the rest of them because it's stipulated. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna take 1 second. I want to read to you. Let me read to you, for instance, the exactly. Let me read to you exactly what the Supreme Court slaughterhouse case said, based on those 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. This was put out now in 1873. Now listen very closely, Dr. Watkins. Here's a quote. An examination of the history of the causes in this nation which led to the adoption of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the United States Constitution demonstrates that the main purpose of these three constitutional amendments, 13, 14, and 15, was for the freedom of the African race, the security and perpetuation of the freedom and their protection from the oppression of the white man who has formerly held them in slavery. It can only be used for them. And when a bunch of meat collectors, that's why it was called a slaughterhouse. They were working in a meat factory down in New Orleans, and they tried to use it. They said whites cannot use that. Neither can you use an Asian. So they're not equal to you. They're above you. They're so far back behind. The deficit is so great. You cannot talk about equality. That's why people don't understand what the word racism means. Race is a contest. You do not go to a racetrack and want all the horses to leave at the same time and to come in at the end at the same time across the finish line. You don't go to a race to get equality. You go there to do what? To get a ranking, who comes in first place or second. And so black folk talk about things that make no damn sense. Racism ain't about equality. I don't need any equality. Everybody else that got in the first Constitution, the Arabs, Asian, Hispanics, Puerto Ricans, Muslims, all of them, they came in under the 1 through 12. That's their freedom. Now for black folk were the exception. Black folk are so far behind that they had to put these laws of saying they are special, they're exceptional people. Nobody has been mistreated, maltreated, shortchanged more than black people. And now, and giving them $2 and giving everybody else $2 doesn't help black folk. You learn that in algebra. If you do the same thing to both ends of the equation, you haven't changed a damn thing. You don't change an equation by adding the same to both ends of the equation. You can't say, I'm gonna give everybody $5, and then I'm gonna give black folk $5. Now and we made up for all the things we took from black folk. No, you haven't. You took everything from them all last week, and now on Sunday you can say, well, let's forget about it. Let's make it even now. Even Steven. No. You can't give everybody the same thing you give black folk. Black people have a constitutional connection to their deficit that must be addressed, and it must be based on race. Since everything was based on race, to give them a deficit he must be on race to correct that deficit. Am I making my point with you now?
Oh, your point is well made, and I agree 100%. You know, you can't if you run 500 miles in the wrong direction, you can't think that you're making up for your mistake by standing still. You know, you got to go 500 miles in the opposite direction that you have already run. And
Mm-hmm.
so when they've spent 400 years tearing down black people, you might have to do 400 years worth of effort to rebuild what you tore down. And so everybody, I want everybody to understand I'm talking to Dr. Claud Anderson. He's the author of the books Powernomics, Black Labor, White Wealth, The Black History Reader, Dirty Little Secrets 1 and 2. Quick housekeeping, real quick, whatever platform you're on, everybody right now, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. We really need your help. We're building Black-owned media. Also, Powernomics.com is where you can get all of Dr. Anderson's books. We are rebuilding the educational system. This is strategic. This is systematic. We are fighting systematic racism with systematic Black excellence. So we must be systematic. Systematic means that we are now the school system. The public school system is not where the education happens. It should happen from you. We will help you. We have access to teams of scholars from around the world who love you. So you don't need to lean on anybody else to give you what you need. There are people out here that can help you. So one thing you might want to consider is going to powernomics.com, making sure you have all Dr. Anderson's books, and also anybody else in your family. When you give them gifts, let them know what you're all about. You can go to powernomics.com. And also one last little thing too is with social media being really restrictive now and the laws changing, we're preparing. Remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. We're not all about reaction. We are proactive. We do proaction. We are proactive. So right now, with the pandemic happening and they're starting to become more restrictive on social media, we want to make sure we stay connected. So what you can do is go to boycewatkins.com and get on our email list. Get on the email list right now. You'll get a free e-copy of my book. It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, but we'll be connected through email. That'll be another way for us to reach out to you in case one day you show up here and the YouTube channel is gone. That is happening. A lot of people are getting the YouTube channels knocked down and all that. And so I just want to make sure we have a plan B, because we don't sit around here whining. We solve problems. So Dr. Anderson, let me ask you this quickly. I'm gonna do a little HBCU trivia. And Dr. Anderson, you can answer first since you're the king. But I want everybody in the chat can get a chance to answer this question. I'm gonna put an image on the screen, and I want we can call this name that white person. And I want to ask y'all, who is this lady? Can anybody tell me who this woman is and what she's famous for? Dr. Anderson, you can try first. Do you know? Does that face look familiar?
Yeah, it looks a little bit like looks like Eisenhower's mother.
Well, no, it's not. It's a woman that actually is the founder of Spelman College, and I you know what, I don't have her name in front of me. You might remember her name. But let me see here. What is
Parker.
Say it again.
Was it Parker?
Yes, Packard, Sophia
Yeah.
Packard, Sophia Packard, and she was actually the founder of Spelman College, and not that this makes Spelman anything less than an excellent institution, but I was personally very surprised when I found out, that so many of our HBCUs were named after people who were not Black. And in fact, I'm gonna look up a little bit of her background just so we can know that. And now I'm gonna give you another person. And since we're doing the HBCU theme, I'm gonna ask everybody if you can tell me who this person is. And you'll probably be able to guess this, Dr. Anderson. All right, so let me flip the screen here. All right, who is that?
Is that Howard?
That is a mulatto man. I believe if I'm not mistaken, I think his mother was white and his father has some Black heritage in him. He was light skinned, so he could pass for white, but he identified as Black, and he was the founder of Morehouse College. And I got to find his name. I should have wrote it down, but I'm gonna find it in a second. And here's the third one, and I'm sure you know this one. Now, who's that guy?
You asked the wrong person on his
grant. I know you know this guy. This is Howard University.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. H.H. Howard.
Now this is him. Now the other one was the guy who started Morehouse, and this is the guy who started Howard. And I found that just utterly fascinating, that our HBCUs were started, by people who are not black. So Oliver Otis Howard was the founder of Howard University. Yeah, the brother who founded Morehouse. Let me see here. And somebody might be in the chat for Morehouse. His name was William J. White. And so I really couldn't understand, Dr. Anderson. I would love it when I would love it if you could give me any thoughts you have on what it was. I've never thought about white people really caring about me that much, right? Like I don't, maybe I don't even care about them that much. I don't hate them. I just, I'll take care of my own. So I'm trying to understand. I would not take my money and go build a university for white people. I wouldn't go do that. I wouldn't go build a university for Asian people. I wouldn't go build a university for Jewish people. Not because I hate them, but because I got to take care of my own wife and kids. What made these individuals decide that, we need to go create a school for black people? What was it? What do you think was going through their head when they did all of this?
Well, Howard Howard had been a major general in the Civil War, and he had many successful battles and won them, and he had a major following in the blacks who had been rescued from the South, and they sort of became sort of attached to him and they followed him around the country. That's why when Atlanta was sort of burned down and all that, so they stayed. He had such a large following, and they sort of identified with him. And when the war had ended, the law specified, and that was in those laws I just talked to you about, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, and also the Freedmen's Bureau that was passed again in 1865 has specified that you got to do something for black folk. But again, the question I asked you earlier about the Dred Scott decision. See, the United States did not want slavery totally ended. White folk did not want, about 98% of all the whites in America did not want slavery to end. I don't know why people keep thinking they did. They did not. And the whites that had fought with the South, they had fought to win, and so that they could continue with slavery. And they lost their land because they violated the law, which says you cannot take up arms against the United States. And if you do, that's succession, and you'll really be subject to you can be shot and put before a firing squad for treason. And Andrew Johnson took over after the assassination of Lincoln. He says, let's forget about it. Let's not punish these guys. Let's not punish them. Let's stick them inside of the Bureau for Freedmen's Bureau. Even though the Freedmen's Bureau was set up for black people, they did the same thing they've always done. Anytime they set up something for black folk, like I told you about the United Negro College Fund and about the historical black colleges, they always measure in other groups that nowadays you all call it diversity, social integration. That is a watering down process. At that point, they said, well, we're going to put Howard in charge because he's had such sympathy for black folk, and he would be a good person to take it over. So he was the first person appointed to take over Howard. He said, because Howard would be the only institution. See, all these other schools that you're talking about, they had some white mulattoes and semi-whites. I guess I would fall in that category because, again, my family was mixed with Indian and black, and that's why I got Cherokee numbers, for the Dawes Commission. I can give you the numbers 1123 and 1124, which means all that. So that means that on the Dawes rolls for the Indians. But I think they're terrible, and I have no interest in them because what they did to black folk. Slavery could not have existed without Indians' full participation and support. They were the ones who chased black folk down, got paid money to keep blacks enslaved. They were the slave traders, the slave owners, and fought with the South to keep slavery, maintain slavery. Oh, Howard, on the other hand, says, I would become the president of Howard University because I understand these blacks. They followed me all the way across from Atlanta, Georgia, all the way to the islands off the coast of North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina, and Florida. That's like Hilton Head, Johns Island, Sullivan Island, Amelia Island. All those islands were owned by blacks at one time. But again, whites only got every island back now, belongs to whites off the coast of the United States. But they said, with Howard, we will let you build Howards. And what do you want? He said they need to have some skills that make them competitive and competent for whites to be able to compete with whites. And so Howard was the only school in the United States that had permitted to have a black law school. Secondly, to have a hospital. Thirdly, to teach dentistry. Fourthly, to teach engineering, architecture. Howard was the only school, and therefore, but guess what the student body was? The student body had to either be white or they had to be a black mulatto.
Mm. So you're saying that they wanted the black students to compete with whites, or did they want the black students available to come work for whites, or both?
No, they wanted to be competitive.
Really? Okay.
Later on, they closed those schools down. Like later on, see, we only had two hospitals in the United States. That's why Brown has Howard has a hospital, and we had another hospital up in Harlem. Because right now we start talking about these viruses. Right now, if another pandemic comes through here, black folk can't survive. You don't even have any hospitals. You can only survive with white folks let you come into a white hospital. We don't have any. We never had the resources to build them. We don't have any major dental facilities that are free for the public so black folk can go to. We lost most of our dentists. Our physicians are just about all gone. We don't have that many black physicians anymore. We don't have institutions where black folk can go and get all kind of medical exam, like all kind of X-rays and stuff like that. The Indians coming in from overseas and the Asians are taking that over because we got an HB1 law in this country, which says that anybody outside the country that have skills that can be utilized in a society and you're not white, we'll let you come in on HB1. And that way we don't have to spend any money educating blacks. So see, white folk right now knew that when they entered social integration, they had a choice to turn over all those factories, all those industries to black folk. But doing the integration, they wouldn't do it though. We produced over 50 to 60% of all the commercial products on earth before its social integration. We were the major producers of shoes in the world. We were major producers of telephones in the world. We were the major producers of radio in the world. We were the major producers of cameras in the world. We were the major producers of automobiles in the world. We were the major producers of stuff like clothing in the world. I can go on and on, but guess what? When social integration occurred under the Martin Luther King group, white folks says no. If we're going to move out of these big cities into suburbs, we're going to create something called suburbs. We'll move all those factories and industries out of the city, strip them so black folk can't take over and get any economic power. Because Anderson will be following saying, we want to have factories and industries because our people are the only people that have never enjoyed the fruits of an industrial revolution. And Anderson will be saying, let's build industries. Now, don't be just giving black folks jobs. A job ain't worth a damn quarter. That won't solve the problem, the deficit. You cannot solve an economic deficit by giving somebody a damn job unless that person is good at stealing, Dr. Watkins. If you're not good at stealing, you can't solve no damn deficit. Unless you're getting it illegally. A job is designed to maintain you, to keep you exactly where you are for 30 or 40 years until you retire. Then you might get a cigar or a picture or something, or a little trophy. But that's why the Biden administration will not help black folks build industries. That's what I wanted to build for. I told black folk that last year, start a black national party, build industries. I got a whole list of industries that you can build and began if we had blacks with the capital. And we don't have the capital because we keep giving whites our money. We give whites 98 cents out of every dollar. It doesn't stay in the black community. Okay.
Well, this leads to my last question, Dr. Anderson. And everybody, I'm talking to Dr. Claud Anderson. His website is powernomics.com. That's where all his books are located. I hope you all will go take a look. And also, Dr. Anderson is participating with this year's All Black National Convention.com. So everything that we talk about on this platform, we're not just talking about it. We are working to implement all these things. And so I hope you'll join us. The URL's on the screen. The convention is in Orlando, October 29th through November 1st. I hope that you will show up and bring your family, bring your church group, bring your investment club. We're going to have fun, but I've got over 40 experts from different areas in our community who are there to solve problems and figure things out. This is the Black Brain Trust. This is a think tank. So join us if you're into that kind of thing and you want to build your business, build your family, build your wealth, achieve goals, learn a lot, learn about health from people like Queen Afua. Go to allblacknationalconvention.com. So Dr. Anderson, let me ask you this question then. I was talking to another Black business owner today, and his business has made millions, several $1 million. And he says that even though he's made all this money, a lot of white banks still won't. It's still really difficult for him to get the funding that he needs to really grow. Simultaneously, you have white companies in Silicon Valley and other places. Like right now, there's a white girl on trial named Elizabeth Holmes, who literally, this young white girl from Stanford raised $8 billion, $8 billion for her company. And she kind of messed up. She was a criminal. She was a liar. I'll show a picture in a minute if everybody wants to see it. They did a whole documentary about it. And the reason I bring this up is because it seems to me that that's where we're missing in the conversation. That's where we're not having the conversation that needs to be had. To your point, we need to build industries. Industries cost money. That means having access to resources that has to be our job one. That's our number one job as a community. And when I look at what happens in many colleges, and I'm not just picking on the HBCUs, this is really all the universities that Black people are attending. Pay attention, everybody. I'm gonna make this point that I want Dr. Anderson to finish the point, or bring his points as well. We have more Black people than ever going to college. We have more Black people than ever going to college, getting degrees, and getting student loans to go with it. So what's been the result of that? No growth in overall Black wealth, no growth in Black economic power, no development of Black industries. We do have a little bit of a surge in Black business development, but that happened with people like us on the internet. That did not happen from the universities. Universities didn't lead this. The Black Business School, we have 148,000 students worldwide, and we probably produce more Black business owners than a lot of the universities out here that are charging 100 times more than that, because that's what we focus on. And so even though we're getting the degrees and getting the education, wealth is going backward because you're getting all this debt. And then also, not only are you getting all the student loan debt, which means your family wealth is being drained, but you're also not being given the skills to build industry and create jobs for other Black people. So you graduate from college, you got the degree, you got all the debt, you have no skill to create industry or any wealth for anybody else. You're not measuring yourself based on what matters. You should be measuring yourself based on wealth. Instead, you're measuring yourself based on what fancy office you got, how much your salary is, and you're losing the game. You're losing the damn game. So what I think, Dr. Anderson, is HBCUs that are listening, anybody from an HBCU that's listening needs to make sure that they're incorporating powernomics philosophies into the way these young people are being trained. Stop training them on how to go get a job. Train them on how to create a job. So Dr. Anderson, did I do a decent enough job of describing something that might actually work? What do you think?
I think you did a superb job. And a good example of that would be like Florida A&M University. When I used to get on them until they finally begin to think about making some changes. Florida A&M University used to boast about they had the best business school in the United States. And I used to go over there and say, how is it that you got the best business school in the United States? I say in North Florida, from Jacksonville, Florida, on the East Coast all the way to the West Coast, which is in Florida. I said they only got 3 major businesses that are Black owned. That's from the ocean here almost to the Mississippi River. That's black. I said, and that's the one is I can't think of this. They had a gas station there, and you had another little shop, a grocery store shop, and then it sold all kind of little artifacts. And the other one was my radio station. And I said, you only got 3 businesses, and then my radio station produces more money than all those put together. And I built that radio station from the ground up. I was about the first black to get an FM radio station in Florida. I was the first one to get a radio station, black-owned FM station in Florida. And also I had another radio station I put up in the top of the Superdome in New Orleans. I said, so now how can you be bragging and boasting about having put out more business, the best business students in the United States, and there are no black businesses in North Florida and in Florida, period, basically. They said, well, Dr. Anderson, we don't teach kids how to build businesses. We teach them how to, we in business administration. I said, businessmen or what? We just teach kids how to administer businesses. That means go into white folks' existing businesses and run them for them so they can make money. I said, why don't you instead of teaching black business administration, why aren't you teaching black business industrial development, where black folks learn how to build industries and factories? They said, well, nobody ever told us that was important. I said, well, I'm over education with the state of Florida. Quit putting out all these damn business schools and boasting that, well, we got 3 kids now that work for Kellogg's breakfast foods. And we got 2 blacks now that work for this and blah. I said, that's a waste of damn time. I said, all you gotta do is got some black servants up there, sit up and call themselves vice president and assistant to the vice president for toilet paper being issued in the bathrooms. I said, that's a waste of damn time. I said, start teaching things that blacks need. They said, well, we got a lot of kids that got master's degrees. I said, yeah, they got master's degrees, but they can't master a damn thing. What are you doing? Can't master, can't find your way to the bathroom and back. So I said, no. I said, get away from that stuff. And so, and they said, well, Dr. you always jump on us. And I said, and so let me conclude that remark with saying this to you. Let me read something to make your point very clearly. This is something I want you to remember for a long time and use it in your course. You might be the only one that could benefit from this. This is based on one of my exams, okay? And I just remember this point now. And for every, because this deals with immigration to the point you're talking about. They're bringing in, Biden is busy now busting his butt trying to bring in about 150,000 Afghanistans. At the same time, he got about another 180,000 Hispanics waiting at the damn border. Now just think about that. They're coming in now to replace blacks. And right now, for the jobs that came up during the Obama administration when he was with Obama, that 49% of all the new jobs and hires went to Hispanics, Dr. Watkins. Now watch this now. And now here we are, where black folk for 365 years were denied a right to get an education. And it was against the law. They got whipped or killed or slaughtered or hung or lynched for learning how to read and write. So when slavery ended in 1863 or 64, guess what? That at that point in time, about 96% of all the blacks in America could not read and write. Did you hear me? Okay. Let me repeat that for you. Okay. At that point in time, 96% of the black kids could not read and write, and black parents too, because of the laws that forbid anybody teaching blacks to read and write. Now, and so, and the same time in 1896, in 1896, we had about 20 million immigrants coming into this country. They were European immigrants. They came into the country in 1896. And guess what? Exactly 96% of them could not read and write. Okay? About a little over 20 million white Europeans came into the country in 1896. They could not read and write. Now, you tell me what happened to them. You got blacks now who were denied a chance to learn to read and write, and Europeans that came in at the same reading level, and they couldn't read and write. But guess what happened? That all those immigrants that came in from Europe, they went straight into management for white businesses. Okay? But now the blacks that could not read and write, as I said, by 1896, those black people had reduced their illiteracy rate again from 96% down to what? To 43%. But guess what? There's no business development that follows a black that gets an education. He can get any amount of degrees he wants, but there's no wealth and elevation and opportunities that are going to follow him any place, so he doesn't progress. And that's why blacks are getting all these college degrees, and most of them shouldn't even be in college. They should be in the professional schools, learning how to build businesses and industries. And here's the point I want you to remember now. Remember this now. This is very important because immigrants come in this country. All these Afghanistans, all these different Asians from the Pacific area, all these Hispanics coming from every place all through South America. For every 10% increase in the number of immigrants and in America, native black income is reduced by 0.3%. Did you hear that? Let me say it again. You may have missed it. For every 10% increase in immigrants coming into America, native blacks are reduced by 0.3%. Every that goes on regularly. Blacks. That's why blacks go backwards. The point you were making earlier. You want to know why they're not progressing? Why they're not advancing? Every time you bring in these immigrants only have a negative impact on black folk, because all those immigrants from Asia, from Hispanics, Latinos, anybody call them, Pacific Islanders, and they are classified as whites. The negative impact is strictly on blacks. I'm gonna give you that figure again. You might need this in your studies, in your teachings. Every 10% increase in the number of immigrants coming into the country reduces black folks' abilities by 10% to be able to earn a living. 0.3%. 0.3% reduction against every 10% increase in immigrants.
Wow. I think that is a significant point to finish up on. You know, that's something to think about. And I think that what it says to me is that we got to stop just being nice to everybody. We got to be nice to ourselves first. And I think it's okay to put yourselves at the top of your priority list. And if you feel guilty about that, then I need everybody in here, ask yourself, are they putting you at to the top of their priority list? Right. Or are they putting themselves at the top of their priority list? Right. So that's what B1 is all about. We talk about this regularly. And I want to say thank you, Dr. Anderson, for a great conversation. I really learned a lot, as always. It's very good to talk to you, my friend.
Yeah, and well, thank you. And I always appreciate getting a chance to share my thoughts with you. And that's why by 1950, following what I just told you a few seconds ago, that a black person in the United States with a master's degree teaching, guess what? They could only make 50% of what a high school white dropout made in income. Because of what I just told you.
Wow.
Let me repeat that again to you. That a white with a master's degree, black with a master's degree in education, as an example, could only earn 50% of a white high school dropout.
Well, you know, that's I tell you that I guess some of us are okay with that. I'm not one of those people, and I think that anybody who knows that they believe they deserve something better, you're gonna have to build it. You're gonna have to build and create what you want to see in the world. And the best skills any young person can learn, in my view, is how to create a business, how to make investments, how to build systems. And I encourage everybody listening, start planning for the future. You got to start investing for your kids now, so that when they get to the point where they're doing competitive group economics, they're ready. You know, you're sending them out into the battlefield with no weapon and no sword. When you gotta create wealth for them. Get that life insurance policy. Go. A brother just sent me a text message. He said GoFundMe is not a life insurance policy. A GoFundMe account is not life insurance. His name's Tony Jackson, and I just got his text. And I want everybody in here to make a conscious effort to position your children to have wealth by the time they're 25. Start investing with the $5 a day investing plan that we talk about in the Black Business School. Also, give them skills and tools that matter. The things that a Black person, in my view, needs to know first and foremost is, one, how to lead a strong, solid family. Number two, how to stay healthy so you don't die young. You got to health as well. And number three, how to build that wealth, how to get, if you get some money, what to do with it. If you teach your kids those things, they'll be successful. So Dr. Anderson, I want to say thank you. And everybody go to powernomics.com. That's where Dr. Anderson stuff is. And thank you very much, my friend. It's
Well, thank you. And tell them buy those books now. Tell them make sure they buy those library packs, as you said before, for the holidays are coming up. And instead of buying toys and stuff like that, or taking a trip out to the Caribbean, out to the coast on a weekend, just buy a book and go out to the coast and lay there and read. You don't have to leave the country.
There you go. Okay. So feel free to take a look at powernomics.com, and let's make this a Powernomics Christmas. And also, don't forget the All Black National Convention is coming up at the end of this month. And I'll talk to you guys about that a little bit more later. And somebody was asking about this as well. If you want to learn more about the Black Business School, some of y'all are looking for all-inclusive packages, things like that, feel free to go to allblackeducation.com. We believe in educating the entire family, because Black wealth needs to be a family thing. And that's what it means to put it into your culture. So when you buy books like Powernomics and things like that, allows you to create a culture around wealth, and then you don't have to think about it as much. So thank you very much, Dr. Anderson. I will look forward to seeing you again soon. And thank you, everybody. Everybody, please hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe button on your way out the door. Also, thank you for your donations, Black Cobra and Max Papers and Robert's Watches. We appreciate that, and we will see you all soon. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you, buddy.
Thank you, buddy. See you soon, my friend.